So bottom line, I cannot wait to see The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I cannot wait to see Venom movie. I cannot wait to see The Sinister Six. I cannot wait to see the other spin-off films. I cannot wait to see Spider-Man 4, The Amazing Spider-Man 4. Finally, we're gonna get a fourth film. What's up guys, WhatTheActualMark here, and today we're going to review one of the most anticipated movies of 2017 and one of the most anticipated Marvel films of all time, Spider-Man Homecoming, and I am here collaborating with Superior SF Spider.
SuperiorSpyder SpideyFan. Thank you very much. Thank you for here, Mark.
You can subscribe to him right now. You can like his Facebook account, his Instagram, his Twitter. He's really good, and he uploads so many spider-related videos, music as well, and games. So if you want a good insight on Spider-Man, everything that's related to him, go to Superior Spider Fan. So
yep.
So how are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Thank you very much. It's actually my first review as well, and it's kind of like a great honor to be like doing something like this.
Okay, it's great to talk with you once again, and we're going to do two separate reviews. We're going to do a separate review on no spoilers, and the other is going to be spoiler reviews. So we're going to do no spoilers, yep. And we're going to talk about how the movie was, what did you like, and what we don't like, and we'll see. So let's begin. We'll begin with the acting and the performances. Tom Holland. I really liked him.
The acting like Tom Holland's bit, he's actually like played like an amazing Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I mean, his acting is very top notch, especially at the last act, which we'll be explaining in the spoilers. But he's actually like give like a tremendous work. He's just like very beyond like any other like child actors I like seen for this generation, except maybe Stephen King from Logan, right? Like those two are like so far the only child actors like I can see that did a great performance.
I thought Tom Holland was pretty amazing as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, because when I first saw him in Captain America Civil War, I wanted my Spider-Man and Peter Parker to be a mixture of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. You know, have the shyness and the nerdiness of Tobey Maguire, and have the charisma and the stamina of Andrew Garfield, and then we could have the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man that we've ever had in the big screen. That's what I can think about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can easily see like the Peter Parker in Tobey Maguire that I watched like a few years ago, and yeah, we played years ago, and I even see like the bit of like Jokernism of like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. It's just I don't actually like his portrayal of Peter Parker a bit, and for like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, he does like kind of like magic catch on a bit, but not as like funny as Andrew Garfield's.
And what I like about this version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Spider-Man is that he's super smart. He's super smart. He can make his own web shooters, as previously seen in Captain America Civil War. He mentioned that he built his own web shooters and web cartridges.
This webbing, who manufactured that?
I did.
Whereas in Spider-Man, well, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, you don't see him. Although there was him building web shooters, it was unfortunately removed. In The Amazing Spider-Man, you do get to see Peter Parker creating his own suit and his own web shooters, but you don't see him creating his own web fluid. So he had to borrow from Oscorp.
Yeah, like I'm not like really fond of the idea of like Oscorp always like. I felt like Oscorp's kind of like a one plot point in the Mark Webb franchise, where they always provide like Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man with like the best stuff he needs, like say from web shooters to like I don't know. It's just I really don't like that. I prefer he make it himself, or at least like finish in the formula that his father made. I mean, he's a scientist after all, and he just like can complete himself.
Yeah, that's actually a very good thought, and So Tom Holland as Spider-Man, he's pretty incredible. He's funny, he's charismatic.
He's like innocent nerd. Look to like the joking crime fighter.
His chemistry with different characters and actors in the film is pretty damn good, and I really liked him.
Yeah.
Especially his chemistry with Ned Leeds. And now let's move on with the next character, Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you realized like he did like play like so many bird characters so far? Like,
yeah, he's played Batman, the Birdman, and now the Vulture. He's going nuts on those characters.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Yeah, he's been playing a lot of like flying characters. Next video, he's gonna be playing a character that's related to mosquitoes.
I thought he was pretty menacing. I thought he was really good, and I like the fact that this kind of character is collecting stuff from the different parts of what happened during the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like the Chitauri and the invasion from the Avengers, and then there was also I think the Triskelion and some parts of Age of Ultron and Crossbones' gloves, which we've seen in Captain America Civil War. They use it for Shocker.
Yeah.
I really like that, and I like the wings. I really like the overall design of the Vulture. He definitely looks like a modernized version of the Vulture that we could probably see.
Yeah. I would use when I first time like see the costume and like the posters and whatnot. I actually a bit skeptical at first, but then as it actually started to grow on me as I just started like the look, the techno gabble, and the jacket and whatnot. Even like the helmet to me. I mean, at first I don't like the helmet, but actually it does make sense. I mean, after all, he's flying here. It's almost like trying to fly in a freaking jet, and you might need one of those things to like breathe.
Yeah, and he was incredibly threatening as the Vulture, because you do get to see him in trailers, and at the same time he can also be funny, and I kind of like that. I think he's one of my favorite, my second favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe villain, and probably my favorite Spider-Man live-action villain we've seen since Doc Ock, or for example, like Kilgrave or Kingpin from the Netflix series.
Yep.
Definitely one of my favorites. I think it's
yeah.
He's really good compared to, for example, like Whiplash or Malekith, who were just dull and no development at all.
Yeah, you don't even like understand what the like modes are like completely. Like it's just like yeah.
They don't have motivations to do what they want to do, except for the Vulture, who he has a motivation, and if you've seen the trailers, he says that he would do anything to protect his family, and we'll talk about more on that on the spoiler review. And the next one is Zendaya as Michelle. She was awkward, all I have to say. She was awkward. But we'll talk more about that on the spoiler review, because there's something about that character that we don't want to spoil for everyone to see.
Yeah.
But let's go on with a little more of a minor characters, like Aunt May.
Yeah. I don't. Speaking of like, I don't really like into her character much. Well, not as into like Rosemary Harris, but she does make a decent Aunt May. It just sometimes maybe I just doesn't well, I don't know. I just kind of doesn't fall for a character that much, at least. Maybe like like when she's caring for Peter, that's what I'm falling for, but not like the other times, I think.
Yeah, and I definitely felt like she was a much different interpretation of Aunt May, because she looks a little bit younger compared to her in the comics. And I'm pretty sure they did that for like joke purposes, because throughout the film you can see a couple of guys trying to hit on Aunt May, and I do like how she's paranoid about Peter, because she's worried about what might happen to him, and then she at the same time she's very caring for him, because honestly, because she lost Ben Parker. It's mentioned very briefly in the film, because Peter said that that everything she's been through. For example, I'm pretty sure he meant the Uncle Ben's death.
Have I told you how much I love you today?
Not in the last 15 minutes.
Well, I do love you very much.
And I love you, Marissa.
This crazy car parked outside. Hey.
Yeah, speaking of like Uncle Ben's stuff, like it's kind of sad that there's like no like mention of Uncle Ben in the Homecoming. Like it's kind of like disappointing. Like in the movie, they're kind of like using Tony Stark as like the father figure. You know, he was never really act much like a father figure to him. He just acts like, well, actually more of a teacher. If you get my gig.
Yeah.
I don't even. I mean, I don't think he should be like the one that gives like Peter motivation. I feel like Uncle Ben should be the one. At least a reference to like Great Power Great Responsibility kind of thing. That would be at least good enough. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of disappointing not to single mention of him.
Yeah, I don't like the fact that Tony Stark is probably the reason why Peter Parker wants to, continue his job as Spider-Man. But now let's go on, to the next character, and that is Tony Stark. There's not enough of him, which is pretty good, considering that when we saw the trailers, we all thought that it's going to be like Iron Man 4 or Iron Man 5, Homecoming, or whatever it was. Thankfully, there's not enough of him. He's just there to keep an eye out on Peter, and that's pretty much it. He basically has this Nick Fury role from Iron Man 2.
And speaking of like Nick Fury, I heard like rumors that he was meant to be in Tony Stark's place. Have you heard like rumors about that?
I heard about that. That probably the first draft they had, that it was going to be Samuel Jackson as Nick Fury, but they decided to change it for Tony Stark. I'm not sure why is that. I think Nick Fury could have been a much better mentor for him because, after all, he's the one who brought the Avengers together in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, he's the one who like got the team together, and it would actually make sense if he's the one who's trying to like train Peter Parker to be like a better hero.
Now let's talk about the changes to their characters. Now, obviously, Ned Leeds is turned into Miles Morales' friend, Gamke. Is that how I pronounce his name? He looks a lot like him.
I'm gonna try to look it up if I can. Genki, or I don't know. I know it's spelled G-A-N-K-E. Yeah. Genki? I don't know how you spell. I'll say Genki.
Yeah, that change actually was so major that even Marvel decided to make a joke about it. You know, like, what's your name? Ned. You don't look like a Ned.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like they're trying to like mix up the characters a bit, of like various individual characters into like, well, let's just say hybrid characters. Like you see like the character like Betty Brant, she was like very resembled to like Gwen Stacy. Get what I mean? Like that's what's like most confusing to me.
Yeah,
like,
that's really confusing to me as well. Now let's talk about Flash Thompson. I'm not a big fan of this interpretation. Like, I understand that this is supposed to be set out in the real world, but it feels too over the top for me.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't seem like the type of guy who would like. He's not like the kind of football player or that. I mean, he's meant to like the big guy who would always like the one that Peter always fears. But in this one, it's almost like he's more like an annoyance than a like guy who's going to be scared, like, you know, like in the last two Flash Thompsons.
At least in the Amazing Spider-Man film, Flash Thompson is a fan of Spider-Man.
Yeah, actually, that's one aspect where they actually managed to keep close to the comics. Like, Flash Thompson is a big fan of like of Spider-Man. Even like even got the shirt himself. So yeah. I saw
fan art where Tony Revolori was like redesigned, you know, to have this jock jacket and had a trendy haircut. And maybe if he looked like that, maybe I could buy into him being Flash Thompson. But right now, after seeing this film, I'm not a huge fan of it.
I mean, despite like his like the miscast of like Flash Thompson, I don't think like the actor deserves any like the death threats. I mean, I heard like on social media, like he's been getting like death threats.
Yeah, I've heard
like,
about it. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the choice, but that is going too far for the people who hate on the casting.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's just simply just doing his job for the role. He's just doing. I mean, he's pretty much like an employee, and the employers try to like. I mean, he's just doing what he can. I mean, you can't blame the guy for doing what he's meant to be doing.
Now let's talk about the love interest, Liz Allen.
She actually kind of like reminds me more like the spectacular Spider-Man version.
Yeah, because they changed race.
Yeah.
And I have to say is that this is a much better. I'd say she's better than Mary Jane, but not as memorable as when Stacy was.
Yeah.
In terms of live action.
Yep.
Like, that's all I have to say. And I like the fact that she's this slightly popular girl. And did I forget to tell you that she's 27 compared to Tom Holland, who is 21?
The freaking age difference is always on the edge.
I think she was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to Zendaya, who was awkward, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll talk about more of that on spoiler review. Now let's talk about the story.
I think it's kind of like flushed out a bit. I mean, I actually like how they tend to like make Peter Parker like they actually understand the concept of like living a double life of both like in the high school and crime life. I think they actually nailed that aspect.
Yeah, I like the fact that this time we've seen like what's at stake here, you know, for Peter Parker, because the last time we saw that kind of thing, you know, what troubles his life and his life as Spider-Man is Spider-Man 2, which they did it perfectly, which is how can he deal with being Spider-Man and Peter Parker whilst also losing his powers and with all those things happening to him.
Yeah, like they did like I think they did it's like a similar aspect in like Spider-Man 2, where he's actually struggling between his life as Peter Parker and Spider-Man, where I mean he's trying to struggle like keeping his life together, his friendships falling apart, and while his confidence into like being Spider-Man is kind of like falling down a bit.
Yeah, and I definitely prefer the story in Spider-Man Homecoming, because we have never seen Spider-Man, you know, like fully fleshed out in high school. Like the only time we've seen that was in The Amazing Spider-Man. Like we've seen him in high school, but we don't see much of him in high school.
Yeah, like no struggles whatsoever, like between his real life and the superhero life. Like no struggles, right there. I mean, the only time where he's actually have struggles being Spider-Man, it's only one time where like Gwen Stacy dies, and that's it. That's the only struggle he's going along with, I think.
I have to agree with you on that, but you know what I like about this story?
Yeah.
There is no origin story.
Yeah, like that actually. Yeah, I mean like for two franchises so far, we had to go like rewatch reboots, even though we already know them already, just only in a different perspective. And I'm actually glad like they actually decided to go further ahead, like not retelling, just go along what's going to happen.
Yeah, I like the fact that this is the first film in Spider-Man trilogy that does not have Spider-Man's origin story. Just a few mentions of him, like Spider Bite.
Yeah, just a few mentions, and also like as I mentioned before, like a few mentions at least of Uncle Ben and like the motive, the reason why he decided to become a crime fighting. I mean, that would at least help a bit in Spidey's motivation. I mean, using Tony Stark as the main motivator for Peter is kind of like a bit of a scratch.
We've seen that story so many times that we need to stay away from it. Yeah, for now.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about the music by Michael Giacchino.
I actually liked his soundtrack, especially like in Doctor Strange, and especially his take on the original Spider-Man theme, which you actually mentioned in your past video.
Yeah.
I mean, I find that a great homage. I mean, after all, it ain't called Homecoming for nothing, right? Although there are also his other scores is probably not as well, let's just say memorable. It's not actually as memorable as like Danny Elfman's score. I mean the only part of the music I remember is just only the what is it?
Was it the
I'm already forgetting how the score sounds. Yeah, I mean that's the problem right there. I couldn't remember what the score sounded despite listening to it many times. I tried to remember it. It's just not as epic, memorable, or even But it's decent in its own way. It's decent in its own way. I'll give it that.
It sounds very much like Danny Elfman-ish, with also combining a little bit of James Horner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely hear some of those hybrids in the film, which is what I really liked. I really loved the Danny Elfman's and James Horner's themes for Spider-Man. I thought they were really great.
Overall, I actually like give like Spider-Man Homecoming, and overall, I would say around like 7 to 8 out of 10. The reason why I would give it that because, I mean, we finally got to see a decent Spider-Man movie for once after like 3 movie attempts after like 13 years. Like, jeez Louise, that took you like very long enough to finally give us a decent Spider-Man movie. Like, that's kind of like, yeah. Although I think also in my other opinion, like I think it's kind of like a little bit overrated a bit because the review on like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes is kind of like a bit. Like,
it's a bit too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my opinion, I have to give this film like a 3.5 out of 5 because I really liked the acting from Tom Holland. I think he's my favorite Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I loved Michael Keaton. I really, I thought the score was okay. I liked the CGI. I thought the story was a little bit better. But with the changes they made to the characters, I was not a particular fan of it, and I don't like changes. And I do appreciate that this is a decent Spider-Man movie that we've seen in a long while. I mean, I did enjoy the previous Spider-Man films that happened after Spider-Man 3, but they were just not as good as the first two Sam Raimi films were. They were good, but there were also flaws that you just can't ignore. So Henry, you're giving it like a 7 or 8 out of 10?
Yep.
And I'm giving a 3.5 out of 5. So...
I respect that opinion.
So this was our non-spoiler review for Spider-Man Homecoming, and tune in on Henry's channel for Spider-Man Homecoming, the spoiler review. So, see ya!